This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, very good evening to all of you. Welcome to BA class. We are in our week 2 of BA class. This is our second week of BA course. So let's get started. Shall have a quick recap of what we learned in yesterday's class. So in yesterday's class, we studied about JAD. So what is a JAD? JAD is a requirement elicitation technique wherein you're not just gathering the requirements, you're also extending it to the design and development. So as a part of JAD, we involve both the business team as well as the IT team. So as once we get the requirements from the business team, the IT team can give a perspective of how the design would be, how the development would be. So JAD is an important technique which is followed in specific cases. We studied how the JAD would be conducted. Then we studied about different estimation techniques. What is an estimation? Estimation is to give a piece of quantum of work for a particular project from a BA end. As a BA, we need to provide like how much will be the estimated hours to complete this particular project, considering there are various activities. So every project you might have a different list of activities which you need to perform, like a different tasks. You might have to create a business case. In few case projects you might not have to create a business per case. You can directly jump onto the requirements in few projects. So based on the task for the particular project, you do break down your total task for the project, and for the different modules inside the project as well, or application, so you would estimate based on the specific criteria. You can go with an 3 Delphi method, 3-point estimation, Delphi method, expert judgment. You can go with the top-down estimation, bottom-up estimation, use the historical data for doing an estimation, or you go with the software size. We studied different techniques for estimation, and then we studied requirement analysis. Do remember, every estimation, whatever we give, have to be justifiable. Also, BA will be pulled out by the project manager to verify the estimates provided by the development team and the testing team as well. Because the project manager relies a lot on the BA for various reasons, for the project planning, how the things would happen, whether the estimates given by the development team, what is the considered criteria by the development team, what is the criteria they consider to come up with an estimate by the testing team. So all this validation would be done by the project manager, and BA might be pulled in to weigh in his or her opinions. Okay, so estimation technique is very important. And as a BA, we not only just look for our own estimation, we also verify the estimation provided by the different technology teams. Okay. As a part of requirement analysis, what we are doing, we studied what is a requirement analysis, right? Requirement analysis is basically you're breaking down the requirements into software operational characteristics. Okay, you're breaking down into different functions and features. So as a part of requirement analysis, we do create some models. So why models? Models is basically a visual representation of your requirements. So two models which are very popularly used by the BA are the scenario-based models and the flow models. So we started on with the scenario-based model. What is the use case? So use case is basically tells you the functionality of your particular feature of your application or your software system. This lists down the number of steps or actions performed or the interactions between an actor and a particular system. So that's your definition of a use case. We took an example to understand how use cases can be created. What are the different types of techniques you need to follow while creating a use case diagram? Use case diagram is something which would be created using a UML unified modeling language or a UML language. Okay, so we seen an example of how a use case diagram is created. We can look for various other examples as well. So today we'll continue with some more on the use case diagrams. So any questions so far from yesterday's class? Anyone have any questions from yesterday's class? All right, so we'll continue with some more on the use cases today, and we'll proceed on with the next topic. So just bear with me, guys. Today I'm not so well, so little sick. So we'll just continue. Okay. All right. So as I said, UML diagrams, you basically tells you various functionality of how you wanted to represent, right? So you can represent a functionality on a higher level like a use case diagram. In this use case diagram, if you could see it, so it is talking about a bank ATM. So what is the functionality of a bank ATM? So here you're not going with each and every detail of a ATM. You can do lot many things in an ATM, right? Not just a checking of the balance, not just a deposit funds, not just a withdrawal of the funds or transfer funds. However, you don't want to cumbersome your use case diagram by inputting every possible functionality. That's what we said, right? If your use case diagram, if one use case diagram is not able to fit in every information, you don't want to go too detailed. If you think like, okay, hey, I have to incorporate all of that as well, you better create a separate diagram so that way it is easier to understand. You can go with one actor, depict all the possible functions of that particular actor which are critical. You don't include each and every possible action in your use case diagram. You can talk about the main functionality, the critical important functionality. And here you can see there are three actors: a bank, an ATM technician, and a customer. All three are actors for you. And as you can see, these lines joining tells you the relationship between an actor and a particular use case. Okay, withdrawal of the cash, there is a relation between a bank and the withdrawal of the cash. At the same time, withdrawal of the cash, there is a relation with your customer. Okay. So this one we already see in this is a restaurant management system. So you can look for various use case diagrams as well. Let's Google some if we can find out. Say insurance claim system. I would like to see the use case diagram for an insurance claim system. Let's look for some images. Click on this. Okay, this is the use case diagram for online registered members. This is a different thing. Okay, you can see here a content administrator can do public pages, secured pages, login, forgot password, change password, insured person, search tool. So all the functionality are depicted in your boundary. You can see here there is a difference. So this tells you your system boundary. This is something which is outside your system. You always have to be aware of what is the system boundary. You can see here this line, this red line tells you the system boundary. This one tells you the system boundary. Everything other than this, you're expecting the anything other than what your system software system could perform, right? A customer could be anyone outside your software system. A bank is outside your software system. So let's see any good example. Maybe this one. Let's see, we can open it. All right. So this is a use case diagram for an insurance information system. So how many actors do we see here? Total of 4 actors. A buyer, who is the patient or an individual, an insurance company, a system user, a super admin who administers. So there are various use cases performed by a buyer, a search policy, a compare policies and inquiry. Insurance company guy can do a lot of things. All these use cases are all bubble, right, or the rounded rectangles. Okay, so go over some of the use case diagrams on the internet, so that gives you some good understanding. Okay, as I said, do remember, you don't need to bog down into too details. Okay, too much of details is not necessary in your diagram, at least. Okay, so when you are creating the use cases, as we did in yesterday's class, like this, when you're writing down your use cases, maybe you can write it down at that point in time, what are all the details of how you can perform. Not everything you can fit up in your use case diagram. All right, so we already seen this. So use case diagram, the 4 components: the boundary, the actors, the use cases or an actions, and the relationship between actors versus your use cases. Excuse me. Then comes your reusable use cases. We already seen some of the use cases that could be some reusability, so which we need to identify. Tips to use case ordering. So in this website links, you'll find some tips on how to order the use case diagrams. Some more examples on how a use case could be. So various actors whom you have: a buyer, a seller, a PayPal, a fraud agent, and you define your sunny day scenarios and identify the reusability index. See all of it, which we seen yesterday. Then there is one difference in a business use case and a system use case. So business use case is to carry out the business of your organization. See, if you're working for an insurance organization, your business of an insurance organization, what it is, to sell your insurance plans to various guys to ensure that the enrollment happens successfully. If there are some queries, you resolve their queries, and if there are some claims, you do the reimbursement of the claims. You try to verify the claims, so pass it on to the respective team. So that's your business of your organization. Outside the business of your organization, not everything could be implemented using your system software, right? There are some things which are external to your system, right? Like, okay, maybe there is a physical paper which comes from a patient, or a physical paper the insurance company sends it out to the customers or the patient's address. So there are some things which are external to your system. So business is to carry out your complete business. System use case talks about the perspective from your computer system. Okay, business use case is a business actor who will be performing. In a system use case, the software system actor who would be performing. So let's see this with an example. It's more easier. So in here, we are focusing on the business actor and a business use case. See, there is a passenger. Passenger is the main guy. This passenger could be extended to a tour guide. There is a passenger who is a tour guide. Okay, both are business actors. And a passenger, when they try to get into a flight reservation application, or they walk into your airport to do the check-in, as a passenger they can do an individual check-in, or if he's a tour guide, he would do a group check-in. Excuse me. Okay, so passenger does an individual, tour guide does a group check-in. Okay, now a baggage check-in is an optional. Since it is an optional, we did an extension. Okay, and now when the tour guide does the group check-in, something common is every individual inside that group has to do an individual check-in. So that is why we call it as include. This is an optional thing. This is an inclusion. Means by default, we have to do an individual check-in. Means that's a common thing we have to do. And a passenger would do on a screen, security screening. So in here, you're not specifying everything which is only per a perspective of a system, right? See, some group check-ins or a baggage check-in, there is some human activity involved, right? You have to put your baggage onto the belt and so on. So here you're talking mainly in terms of the business of your organization. So in a system boundary, you're just separating it out. What does the system do? Okay, system can do a checkout, a help, a payment, a manage user, something external to your system. You define a boundary. So in few organizations, they might ask you, what is a business use case? Or this could be an interview question as well. What is a system use case? Okay. So as a part of homework, there is a good video. So that's your homework for first homework for today. This video gives you some good understanding on how a UML use case diagram could be created. So this video is in here. It's not a big one. So just go through this video as a part of your homework, how to draw a UML use case diagram. All right. Then we have a misuse case. What is a misuse case? As a misuse case, the definition is use case from the point of view of an actor who is hostile to the system. See, every use case has to be performed by an actor. An actor is a legal guy, an actor is not a legit guy, right? Is a hostile. So there are some misuse cases that are possible in an application. So every misuse case, we as a BA, we need to identify what all could be the possible misuse cases. As a BA, I might not have a good knowledge on identifying all the misuse cases. So I'll take help from the stakeholders, be it your business team, your technology team, who can suggest you. These are all will be your misuse cases. Misuse cases are something which we call it as DOS attacks, right? DOS stands for denial of service. DOS, okay? DOS stands for denial of service. DDoS stands for distributed denial of service. See, there is an hostile guy who is a hacker. Hacker could try to steal the login credentials. Hacker could register in behalf or on behalf of the customer. Hacker could spoof an order. Hacker could take the delivery of that order, escalate some privileges and so on. So basically, these misuse cases, how will it help out? This will help out to the technology team, like, okay, there has to be external extra security or the security protocols that has to be incorporated at these areas wherein there is a possibility of misusing of the information, okay, which is represented in a black. Okay, so we usually hear about the virus attacks or a Trojan infected virus attacks, right? So these all are DDoS service. So basically, these are all of type of DDoS, distributed denial of service, which basically is you're compromising various subsystems, right? We get an email and that gets compromised from my email to my friends, to my husband's email, to my kids' email, and so on, right? So these are all nothing but DDoS service. DOS attacks, okay? These are called as DOS attacks, denial of service attacks. Actions in the blank, what does it mean? It's not for implementation. You don't want the development team to implement these blacks. They have to implement all of these which are in the non-blacks one, right? The gray ones or the white ones. However, the tech team has to ensure the security against it. So as I said, BA has to document the possible hacking points, also can have a discussion with the stakeholders to get the same. Like, okay, maybe like a payment or trying to provide some banking information, which is a confidential sensitive information. So this is one more on the black part, right? Like, I mean, the hostile actor stealing food, wine, clients stealing the payment. This is one more use case for an online shopping site. So you can go over some of the use cases, which gives you some good understanding. Now, how is the use case different from a test case? I hope like many of you are aware of a testing part, right? Like, what is a test case? Test case represent how a particular use case can be tested. See, one use case is a functionality use case, like, okay, eating food is a functionality. This use case will be broken down by the testers into multiple test scenarios. Test scenario 1, test scenario 2, test scenario 3. Say, for example, one use case is broken down into 3 test scenarios, and one test scenario can be broken down into multiple test cases. Test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, and so on. Right? So basically test case is to test your particular use case. What does the use case tells me? Use case tells me the behavior of the application, or what is the behavior an application should have for a particular use. Test case represents an operational aspect. How do I test a particular use case? Some positive testing, negative testing, and so on. Okay. And some of the pitfalls of a use case. Pitfalls of the use case is confusing use case diagram with the user interface. We don't want to talk about the user interface like, okay, scroll up, scroll down, click on this page, click on yellow button, red button. That and all we don't know at the time of creating the requirements, right? Do we know that? No. We don't have a red button, blue button, or click yes, click no, and so on. So that all comes under user interface design. We don't want to have those in the use case diagram. And not having a clear goals. Obviously, we as a BA, we always need to strive for the business goals and not trying to test specify all use cases upfront. We should not just try like, okay, let me come up with all 100 use cases for every application system. Maybe if you are even ready with your 50, start putting up in the use case diagram or put up in a tabular format. And once you add up, you can keep on adding more and more. You should not just try like, okay, let me complete all of it, then only I will share it all with the business team or the technology team. That's one of the pitfalls. Specifying too much of detail in the use cases. So these are some of the pitfalls you have to be guarded against. Now, by looking at this use case diagram, can you guys identify, you understood what are the pitfalls or the negative or the things which you always have to be aware of. By looking at this below use case diagram, can you guys identify which are the things which are not correct in this use case diagram? There are some pitfalls in this as well. So can you guys identify that? Press OK. Yes, we don't want to have that. That's true. Perfect. This is one. Anything else which is not correct? We should not talk about the names. We should not say Jim Smith or John Smith or Harry Potter. We don't want to talk about the names. You should not give all this information. Why you are talking about all this information except on Wednesdays when it should be a PA, it will be Jim. And again, you don't need too much of details, right? Delete customer is simple. You don't need to say like when moon is in conjunction with Mars, you delete it. When moon is in conjunction with Earth, you don't delete it. You don't need to talk about all of it. Okay, so these are some of the pitfalls of this use case diagram. Actor name, confusing actor names. Just mention it as an actor, a customer, whoever is accessing, right? Or a traveler, whoever wants to go. Action, delete customer is enough. OK button, scroll bar, browser. These are all not important things which you need to put up in a use case diagram. Okay. Now, one more interview question is, determine a difference between a system use case and a business use case. We already talked about it, right? So that could be one of the interview question which you might give. Okay, so now what is a test case? Say, for example, yesterday we took an example for this particular use case, right? Patient enroll for a plan so as a patient is covered under insurance. That's our use case. Now, to test this particular use case, I need to come up with test cases. What are the test cases? Test cases tells you how do you test this particular thing. So every test case has a specific norms. I can show you an example as well. Let's write it down. Okay, every test case will have a test case name. Okay, a name should be a unique one. You have to follow the naming conventions provided by your organization. Okay, it's an insurance system or something. Okay, you're trying to do an enrollment. Okay, for a new user, maybe 01 is your serial number for your test case. You have to follow the naming convention. I just given this starting with an application name. What is the functionality? What you're trying to do? Okay, what is the description? Test case description. What does it say? Okay, say test case to verify if customer or a patient able to enroll into the enroll into insurance plan. Every test case will have steps. Okay, step ID or step number, step description, what is your expected result. Excuse. You can also give some prerequisites. What is the prerequisite? To execute this test case, what do you need? Okay, you need that insurance system up and running. All right, so first step one is, okay, step one tells you, okay, log in or open www. Test environment, we are talking about testing, right? Test environment.insurance.8na.com. This is the test environment. It opens the home page of 8na Insurance in the test environment. That's your expected. So what you're trying to do, you're performing a step. You're trying to test this. To test this, there are series of steps I need to follow. First, open www. on your Chrome browser or your Mac browser, whichever browser you have. Okay, and every test case you can have your test data. What is the test data you used? In this case, no. Okay, again, this is a sample template, guys. Every organization can follow their own specific template. Once you open it, what you do, click on enroll for insurance plan. So when you click on it, what are you expecting out of the software? Okay, when you click on it, okay, new user registration page opens up. So that's your expected. So now what is your actual result? Actual result tells you while you're executing, now that you prepare your test cases, you prepare all your steps, like say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10 or 20 or 100 steps for your test case. It depends. Okay. Now the developer will say, hey, Shri, you can now go ahead and test your test cases. So I will open my test case. I will perform exactly the same steps what is given. Step 1 says, okay, I need to open Chrome browser. I need to type 8na.com. Okay, right now this test environment won't work, so I'll open 8na.com. So it is opening the home page. So I'll mark it as, okay, as expected. The status is pass. Then I have to click on enroll. I'll click on enroll or shop for a plan. Click on Medicare, find a doctor. I'm following exactly the steps given in my test case and I update it. So this is how you test a particular. I didn't write down all the steps, but basically this is how a test case is prepared. Is it clear, Kavita?
Yes, it's clear. I just want to know what is test data exactly?
Actual result test data is what is the data you're using for testing. Say when I click on enroll, right? See, maybe when I say register now, okay, I have to register. So when I click on register, it asks me for some information, right? Okay, I click on new user registration page opened up as expected. This is pass. Then say enter details on the new user registration page. So what details I have to enter? So in here it is asking me member ID, first name, last name, right? See, I'm testing the software now. So these two come up while you are executing. Executing means, see, you'll be ready for your testing. You have a use case given by the BA and the stakeholders. Now you have to do the testing. You have to write down the test cases of how do I test this scenario, positive scenarios, negative scenarios. Now when the development team, see, requirement has to be developed by the development team and they have to implement it in a code and then only you can test it, right? So while testing, you have to follow exactly the steps given in your test case. Okay, I will open Chrome browser. I will type in. I will verify whether opening, what is your expected when you open a home page, it should open this home page of 8na Insurance. So it is working as expected. Now for this entering of the details on the new user page, Details should be accepted is my expected results. What is the data I have to input on this new user registration page? Member ID, first name, last name. So that is my test data. Member ID, given member ID, first name, okay, Shri, last name. What is the test data you're using to perform your test case? That becomes your test data.
Okay. Mhm. Got it.
To execute my test case, this is the information: zip code, date of birth, and so on. Then click on continue. In your next page, it might ask some more information. That's your next step. After you enter this, it might ask you about your employment details, how much you are earning, and based on it, it might suggest you some plan, right? So details should be accepted. What is your employment details? Maybe your the company you're working for, your salary, and so on. That is your test data. So while actually doing the execution, once the developer says the code is ready, you'll write down you'll exactly perform what is given in your step and write down your actual result. Is it clear, Fayaz and Kavita?
Yes, so we do this, right? Not the tester, right?
Sorry, can you come again with your question?
So this is done by BA or the tester. Like we have to do
Testers
this.
will have to do their own testing. See, as a BA, you are responsible for user acceptance testing, or it's also called as acceptance testing. As a part of acceptance testing or user acceptance testing, we have to create, we as a BA, we will create our test cases and we will write down our steps. We create user acceptance test cases. Testers do a lot of jobs. Testing team has so much of testing to do. They test it in various ways, in a smoke environment, smoke testing, sanity testing, integration testing, system testing. They create their own test cases. You don't need to create their test cases. They will be creating their part. We as a BA, we create only this part. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
To provide the requirements, we as a BA, we give the requirements to the development team and the testing team. Like this is the requirement. We will say this is the requirement, guys, you have to implement it and test it. So testing team will open this requirement and will create their own test cases. Development team will develop the software according to the requirements. We as a BA, ultimately we have to do the acceptance testing. So that is why we might also have to create these acceptance test cases like this. Okay. Is it clear, Kavita?
Yes, everything is clear. Thank you.
So Faz, aren't we supposed to use only numbers? No, why only numbers, Faz? Like in this case, if you can see, new user registration is asking me a social security number, first name, last name. So whatever is your test data, you will give. See, in my second screen of employment details, I may have to give a company name, Infosys, and salary is say 80K or 90K or whatever is it, right? So what is the test data? Test data to perform this step. I have to enter details. What details I will enter? I have to be ready with everything before I start my execution. All right. So the second homework for you guys is use cases for Walmart solution or the patient scheduling solution. See, we talked about Walmart, right? How to work on a Walmart, how the Walmart business case has been created, and how the stakeholder analysis was created on a Walmart solution. In our last week's class, we also given a homework for you guys to create a business case, to create a stakeholder analysis matrix for a patient scheduling. Right? There was some issue wherein there are so many no-shows and physicians are facing some issue. Just remember that homework, right? Let me quickly open it up. So this was the homework which was given in the last week. This is the problem. There is a problem. And for this, you guys have to create a business case and the stakeholder analysis for it. Now, as a part of this course, we have two case studies. The first case study is the Walmart solution, wherein we are proposing a solution for Walmart. The second case study is patient appointment scheduling pass. Here we are creating a Walmart mobile app. Here we are developing a solution for a patient appointment. So now, I hope you guys have started creating your homeworks, right? It is very important you complete your homeworks, because so that way you can be in line with all the concepts that you are learning in the class. Otherwise, guys, what happens is you learn so many concepts. See, we are learning every different concept possibly that will be used in a work environment. It is not like you will apply every concept in every project in every organization, right? So you'll pick and choose based on how the organization operates. But however, you have to be aware of every concept, and these homeworks will give you that practice. Okay, a business case we studied. Did I create a business case? So as that will give me some understanding of how to create a business case. In a similar manner, I want you guys to create a use cases and a UML use case diagram. You can choose either of the case studies. Case study of a patient scheduling system or a case study of the Walmart solution, whichever is suitable, whichever you think you can do it. Pick one of it and create the list of use cases and UML diagram for that. Can you guys do this homework? Any questions on the homework? Okay. See, just Google in your work running notes, just search for homework. Just search for homework. Okay, just go to the top and search for homework. You can see this is your first homework wherein you have to create a business case. The second homework wherein you have to create a stakeholder analysis matrix. Third homework, you have to do the requirement elicitation techniques, whichever are possible. Fourth homework is as of today, which is to go over the video on how to create a UML use case diagram. The fifth homework, the one which we were just discussing, is the use cases. So as of today, as of now, you have 5 homeworks to complete. Okay. So please make sure you do complete the homework. If not in the week, I understand you guys may be already working or doing some other studies. So it's very important you follow the concept. So that is where it will be helping you out in the business analyst work. Okay. All right. So now, as a part of scenario based modeling, we have 2 cases, right? 2 things, scenario based models. One is use cases, which we just studied. The next one is user stories. Now, these use case diagrams, whichever we looked at so far, are created using UML language, right? Unified Modeling Language. As I said, use cases can also be created using a specific other notation, which is BPMN. BPMN stands for Business Process Modeling Notation. This is also a notation. So let me give you some examples of how a BPMN would look like. You can see here, this is a BPMN for activating your account. Okay, so what is that? In a business model, you're not, do remember business process modeling notation, you're just talking about a business process. See, as a financial bank, what are the various businesses bank will do? Open an account for you, will also do some portfolio management for you. If you have enough funds, they will try to deposit accounts, activate accounts, withdrawal, and so much of the business processes are there. The same thing you're representing using a BPMN notation. What do? Receive the customer request. That's the first thing. This is your starting point. The empty circle. The rounded circles will tell you the various processes that happen. This plus mark will tell you the concurrent activities that are happening. This cross mark will tell you a decision. Okay. So you can see here, once you receive a request, 2 things happen. First, you try to get the information of that customer, identify the customer. So you take an ID of the customer, a driving license, your SSN or so. Once you identify the customer info, a decision can happen. If you are a VIP guy, your request will be little different. The process will be different. If you are a non-VIP guy, you have to fill in some information, analyze the customer relationship and go on. Then you also identify the customer info. If he is an existing customer, select the deposit review received, submit the deposit, update the customer info. Again, these are joining again. Two paths, which is going from path 1 and path 2, they join back again with a plus. You prepare a proper documentation, you open an account, you do all of this, again a plus. Plus will give you two concurrent set of activities. You're validating an account info, and then you're moving on to again a decision. When you're validating an account, either you can close the account or you apply for an account or activate an account. Maybe the customer has come to close an account, or maybe the customer has come to open an account. Activating an account will happen in this manner. So the path here is this way. If you are activating an account, activate an account, record it, evaluate, do the deposit if you're opening the account for the first time, and your notification receives the customer. If you're closing an account, you just close an account and you directly come to notify your customer. Okay. So you're just referring to the business process in your organization. The flow of various things that are happening. See, use cases will not tell you every flow, right? Use case will tell you account opening is one use case. Okay, closing an account is one use case. However, account opening has so many tasks. So you might represent that in a business process model. Okay, so UML notation is one thing and BPMN notation is another. Again, you can Google for various BPMN models. BPMN model for healthcare process, because it's all business processes, right? Look for some images. So click on it. Okay, here you can see. So this is again a process model. Registration starts here, tracking the patient. You're dividing it into, you're just horizontally dividing just to understand different things are happening. Different actors are involved to carry out the different processes, or different roles are involved to carry out the different process. Actors and roles are the same, right? Like, so different roles or actors are involved. Patient arrives, what happens? Is there any work for office? No. Nurse, what does the nurse do or a front office do? Coordinate for consultation hours. Then once the coordination happens, there are 4 activities which are happening. The patient can go to a physiotherapist, an orthopedician, or a neuro, and maybe is going for a neuropediatrician. Perform some indications, and because this guy is coming to do the checkup with all these 4 guys, and then a decision whether the surgery is indicated. No, then surgery is cancelled. If it is indicated, then an office will come and schedule for a surgery. So you can represent the business process model. You can look for various models. This is one more. The same thing you can represent like this. You can represent it in separate way, wherein you're talking about various actors involved in it. This manner, try to Google for various things, and you can understand that way how these modeling notations have been created. Okay, any questions on UML diagrams or the BPMN models? This is one example. I have one more, I guess. Okay, there's one more. Okay, a customer going for ordering a food. So place an order online, travel to the restaurant, collect the pizza, pay for the pizza, And what is happening? The cashier guy collect the payment, the waiter deliver the pizza, the chef will cook the pizza. At the placing of an order, there are things happening at an ordering system. Processes the order, assembles the chef guy, assembles pizza, cook the pizza, deliver it. And once this customer walks into the restaurant for a pickup, it will be collected. Payment will be collected and the item will be delivered. Okay.
So we get a layout of this BPMN diagram from the organization, or do we need to create our own?
See, as a BA, we create the BPMN diagram. Or your not every there is a business team who is the main guys, right? There's a product owners, we call them as application owners. So these guys already have the various businesses that are being taken care by the organization. They might already have these diagrams created. But if you're developing something new and your organization asks you, hey Shri, we are following the BPMN notations, can you create our business process models for the new project which you are suggesting, maybe for a Walmart or maybe for patient scheduling or for a healthcare, for whichever is it, they might ask you to create, and you create the business process models. Again, there might be so many business processes that are being carried out, and we can choose, well, which are important to create for a business process. See, everything is one activity: placing of an order and collecting it. What will happen in a cancel of an order, what will happen in a tracking of an order, what will happen in a return order, and so on, right? So you might create this. So as a BA, you're responsible. One of the responsibility is you might be creating these diagrams, similar to the use case diagrams or UML, other UML diagrams, which we might also have to create some BPMNs.
So this
So yes,
diagram we just have to Google it, or the company gives some kind of layout or some kind of paid application or something, or let's say if you're told to do this, make a BPMN of some certain, let's say this pizza thing, this diagram how it's made, the layout and the boxes and all, do we have to do it, like, or they give a sample of this, or where do we
see,
get this basically?
okay. See how why are these models? First thing, why are we creating of based on what are we creating these models? What do you guys think? Based on what are we creating these various models which we are talking about, a use case model or a UML model or a BPM? Based on what are we creating this model? What is the basis? Anyone? How are we creating? Based on what are we creating?
Requirement.
That's right. So you already have the requirement. You already know what is the business need. You already spoke to the stakeholders to understand the requirement. Now you know this requirement. Okay, placement of an order, I know this is what it happens. I know there will be a cashier guy who does this thing, and there will be a waiter guy who does these things, there will be a chef or this guy who will does these things. You have a big paragraph of the various steps. Paragraph, when I say, like, okay, you write down the series of steps of what to do and so on. Now the same thing you're putting up in a diagram. Should I put like only 4 or 5 lines here? See, you will learn as you go through it, right? So it doesn't, you don't need to worry. Like, okay, I know for this particular requirement of a customer placing an order and customer picking up that order, you have multiple levels of details involved. The same requirement you're putting up in a model. Okay, you already have the need. As a BA, you already know all of this. You gathered the requirement, you analyzed the requirement, you understood this requirement. Now you're just depicting in a visual way. Yes, Faz, we'll learn that. Okay, we will learn how to use Visio to create these diagrams. Okay, see, today as I'm not so well, I'll not go to the tool to discuss it. So we'll actually, I wanted to wind up the call today itself, now itself, just because I'm not so well, I'm not able to put 100%. Okay, so but yes, we'll definitely learn Visio on how to create the UML diagrams. Okay, like, okay, we can learn use case diagram. You can also look at one activity diagram as well. Okay. Is it clear? Are the clarifications? I just wanted to make sure you guys are all clear on how to do this. Okay. See, is there a format or something? So I can just go with my regular format. See, if company says, okay, I'll go and ask my BA manager, hey manager, can you tell me, is there any specific format I need to follow? They might give you some templates or the old business process models. They might say, okay, draw it in a similar manner. Or they might say, okay, we never had any business process model, or we never had any use case diagram. You guys can just come up with a new one. So I'll do some Googling. I'll come up with the best one, which is easy to identify. I can segregate it like this, or I can just put everything in like this. Here I'm not segregating who does what. It is a simple business process. I don't need to go too detailed like this model. I can just draw like, okay, these are the various activities that happens in an account closure or in an account opening or an activating of an account. I'll just draw it like this. Here I'm not telling, okay, this will be done by the cashier, this will be done by the manager, this will be done by this guy, and so on. You're not depicting that as. Okay. Okay. So we'll pause here, guys. We'll talk about our next model maybe tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow is Jan 14th. Sure. Thank you, guys. Okay, any other questions before we wind up for today? All right. So we'll make up to the loss for whatever we couldn't do it today. So we'll make up for that loss and we'll complete it in the following sessions. We'll extend a little bit beyond 1.5 hours and try to complete it in 2 or 3 sessions. That way we can do. Yeah. Yes, I know. Thank you. Thanks, guys. If there are no questions, take care. Bye. Thank you.